Medusa was a monster, one of the Gorgon sisters and daughter of Phorcys and Keto, the children of Gaia and Oceanus. She had the face of an ugly woman with snakes instead of hair. Anyone who looked into her eyes was immediately turned into stone. Her sisters were Stheno and Uriel, but Medusa was the only mortal of the three. She was originally a golden-haired fair maiden who, as a priestess of Athena, was devoted to a life of celibacy. However, after being wooed by Poseidon and falling for him, she forgot her vows and married him. For this offense, she was punished by the goddess in a most terrible manner. Each wavy lock of the beautiful hair that had charmed her husband was changed into a venomous snake. Her once gentle, love-inspiring eyes turned into bloodshot, furious orbs, which excited fear and disgust in the mind of the onlooker, whilst her former roseate hue and milk-white skin assumed a loathsome greenish tinge. Seeing her transformed into such a repulsive creature, Medusa fled her home, never to return. Wandering about, abhorred, dreaded, and shunned by the rest of the world, she turned into a character worthy of her outer appearance. In her despair, she fled to faraway lands. With the curse of Athena upon her, she turned into stone whomever she gazed upon, till at last, after a life of nameless misery, deliverance came to her in the shape of death, at the hands of Perseus. According to the myth, there was once a king named Acrisius, who had a beautiful daughter named Danae. The oracle of Apollo told Acrisius that there would come a day when Danae's son would kill him, so he locked Danae in a bronze tower so that she would never marry or have children. The tower had no doors except for one very small window. Danae was very sad, until one day, a bright golden light came through the small window. A man appeared holding a thunderbolt in his hand, and although Danae knew he was a god, she didn't know which one. The man said, "Yes, I am a god, and I wish to make you my wife. I can turn this dark prison into a wonderful, sunny, and blooming land." Indeed, the horrible prison turned into fields as beautiful as the Elysian fields themselves, but one day Acrisius saw light coming out from the small window. He told his men to tear down one of the walls. When he entered, he saw Danae smiling and holding a baby on her lap. This was Perseus. Acrisius was furious, so he locked Danae and baby Perseus in a large chest and cast them out to sea. Somehow, they managed to arrive safely in the island of Seriphus, where Polydectes ruled. The king's brother Dictys, who was a fisherman, caught the chest in his net and pulled it to shore. Freeing Danae and her son, Perseus grew up to become a strong young man. Polydectes had heard about Danae and asked her hand in marriage, but she rejected him. If it wasn't for Perseus, Polydectes would have married Danae by force. So the king decided to create a plan to get rid of the young man. Polydectes pretended to marry the daughter of his friend. Everybody had to bring a wedding present, including Perseus. However, Perseus, being poor, had not brought anything, and Polydectes pretended to be furious. After a heated discussion, Perseus said he would bring him anything the king would ask. So Polydectes asked for the head of the Gorgon Medusa. Perseus set forth on his adventure. He wandered for days, searching for the Gorgon's lair. One night, in an unknown country, he realized how hopeless things were. Medusa was a horrible creature who had snakes growing out of her head instead of hair, and a terrifying gaze that petrified anyone who would look into her eyes. In his despair, a tall woman and a young man with winged sandals appeared and introduced themselves as goddess Athena and god Hermes. Hermes said that they were all siblings, as Perseus was in fact the son of Zeus, so they would help him in his quest. So Hermes offered him his winged sandals and the sickle that was used by Cronus to castrate Uranus, while Athena gave him her shield, so that Perseus would not have to look straight into the Medusa's eyes. They also gave him further information on how to find the lair of Medusa. Perseus went to the cave of the Grey, who would lead him further in his adventure. The Grey were three women who shared a single eye among them. When one of them was about to give the eye to one of the others, Perseus grabbed it and blackmailed them to aid him. The Grey informed him that he should find the nymphs of the north to get the Cap of Darkness, which would make him invisible, as well as a magic bag. After obtaining these two items, Perseus eventually went to the lair of Medusa and her sisters, whom he found sleeping. He wore the Cap of Darkness and unseen managed to kill Medusa using the sickle. He then used the shield to carry the head and place it into the magic bag. For even though it was dead, the head still had the potential to turn someone into stone. Medusa's sisters woke up and attacked Perseus, but he flew away using his winged sandals. On his way back to Seriphus, he had many adventures. In one of them, he came across the Titan Atlas, who was condemned to carry the heavens on his shoulders. To release him of his pain, Perseus turned him into stone using Medusa's head, so that he would no longer feel the weight of his burden. Later on, he saw what looked like a statue chained to a rock, so he went to investigate. He saw that it was not a statue, but a woman, and asked her why she was chained to the rock. My name is Andromeda, and I have been punished because of my vain mother. She boasted that I was more beautiful than the Nereids. Poseidon was angered and said that I must be sacrificed to a sea monster, she said. Even as she spoke, a monster rose from the sea. Perseus pulled Medusa's head out of the bag. The sea monster turned to stone and crumbled to pieces. Perseus cut Andromeda's chains and took her to her father, King Cepheus of Phoenicia. When Perseus asked Andromeda's hand in marriage, Cepheus gladly agreed. So Perseus and Andromeda set off for Seriphus. On the way, they stopped at Larissa, so Perseus could compete in the games that were held at the time. However, when he threw a discus, it hit an old man who instantly died. The man was Acrisius, and therefore the prophecy became true. After mourning, Perseus and Andromeda set off once more. When they arrived at Seriphus, the first person they met was Dictys, the fisherman who had brought Danae and Perseus ashore many years ago. Dictys told them how Polydectes had never really married, but since Danae wouldn't marry Polydectes, he forced her to be his handmaiden. Perseus was furious, so he asked Dictys to take care of Andromeda in order to avenge his mother's mistreatment. Perseus stormed to the palace, walked in, and said, "Let all who are my friends shield their eyes." So saying, he raised Medusa's head, and Polydectes and his quarters were immediately turned to stone. Perseus and Andromeda lived happily for many years, and their descendants became great kings, the greatest of them all being Hercules, the strongest man in the world. Eventually, Perseus was killed by Dionysus. To be immortalized, Perseus and Andromeda were turned into stars and would live together in the sky. If you wish to know more about Hercules, please watch my video on the 12 Labors of Hercules. The link is in the description below.